Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the new movie, Thunderbolts. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way, maybe one day I too can join a ragtag crew with Florence Pugh. I'm not going to tell you how many times it took for me to record that. This movie is directed by Jake Schreier, whose most notable film is Paper Towns. The synopsis is as follows. Ensnared in a death trap, an unconventional team of anti-heroes embarks on a dangerous mission that forces them to confront the darkest corners of their past. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. This movie opens with Yelena feeling pretty lost. We're in the post-Avengers era. She's just going from one mission to the next. She doesn't have anyone or anything really going on in her life, and she feels pretty down. Sounds kind of like Disney's MCU in general. Their feelings might have kind of floated into her character a little bit. She's currently working for Valentina in an underground capacity, when one mission leads her to an underground bunker where there are several other anti-heroes waiting for her, and a dude named Bob. They quickly realize that they're being pitted against one another and decide to band together to fight their boss. But an unknown factor comes into play, forcing them to shift their priorities, come together as a team, and face the bigger threat. There's a dichotomy with this plot that I haven't seen people talking about. In and of itself, the plot for this movie I thought was really good. Here's the issue though. At least half this movie is spent focused on freaking Valentina and her empty, boring, stupid rise to political power. And I gotta tell you, I was so sick and tired of her yapping for that half of the movie that I almost thought it was more of the same trash. But then this movie started getting into the meat and potatoes of it, and there was a really solid plot there. Dare I say some of the original Marvel magic was somewhere in there. Here's the other issue though. The meat and potatoes of this movie feels like it's only about 25 minutes long. It just makes me wonder why you wouldn't spend more time on what's actually interesting about the movie. And that was a huge shortfall that this film had. There also comes a point in that act where Yelena has to make a very hard decision, but it would have been a lot more impactful had the movie developed that part more and she has to make that decision later. But instead she makes it right away, and then the final and best act of the movie feels extremely rushed. And that was a shame because it was really good. I personally hated the final scene of this movie, but the plot in that final act was really solid. So for me, plot gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. Thunderbolts is rated PG-13. There's a mild to moderate bit of profanity. There's quite a bit of action and violence and quite a few perilous moments. But there is an undertone in this movie that I think is very strong and very positive. And I have not been able to say that for a while. And while I am a huge fan of that, use your discretion, but for me, family friendliness gets a 50-50. 3 is acting and script. Florence Pugh does a really great job reprising her role as Yelena, and I think her acting or Sebastian Stan's were the best in the film. Everybody else was just okay with the script that they were given. But there is some writing in this movie that irritated me to no end. In the TV show Falcon and Winter Soldier, Valentina I thought was an interesting character. My favorite part of the show, however, was John Walker. I thought he was an extremely interesting character and written really well. But the writing in this movie for both of those characters makes them horrible. Julia Dreyfus's performance was nearly unbearable and extremely poor in this movie. I wanted to die for half the film. But honestly, that goes for most of the characters in this film. For the first half of the film, they are bickering at each other, and it's not intelligent writing. It's empty and annoying bickering that doesn't feel like the same characters at all. And they also wrote John Walker to be this idiot that's extremely annoying and has no depth. I'd say in this movie probably 35 to 40% of the humor landed, and a lot of it was after the first half of the movie. Due to the writing, the second half of the movie felt a lot more intelligent and a lot better, to the point where it felt like the script went through development halfway through the movie, because the script started really bad and then developed into something that was really good. And so it made the movie feel odd and rushed. You hated some parts and you liked other parts. Almost like there were potentially 2 cooks in the kitchen. So the acting and writing in the first half was kind of bad. The acting and writing in the second half was pretty dang good. So for me, acting and script get a 50-50. 4 is character development. To be honest, we haven't seen a lot of these characters for a few years. And so this movie did what I call pseudo character development, and I think it was a detriment to the film. What I mean by that is, for the first half of this film, these characters do not feel like who they were in their respective films and TV shows. They basically Thored John Walker and made him and everyone else seem like completely different characters until the halfway point of this movie. And so that pseudo character development that I felt is that they started started out as people that we don't even know because they weren't ever that, and then they develop into the characters that we know them to be from the shows and movies that we've seen them in. And so there is no net positive on character development, it's just the same. We see some recycled character development between Yelena and the Red Guardian, and it still pulls on your heartstrings, but it's the same thing we saw in Black Widow. The most development you get is with Yelena and another character that I can't mention, but all of it comes in a couple lines near the end of the movie, so all of that really rich character development and magic that this movie could have had, it didn't focus on. One of the antagonists in the movie has a very interesting character arc that is one of the main plot points of the movie, and I loved it. I only wish that it could have been longer than 20 minutes, because when they focused on it, it was actually very powerful and moving. So because of all that, for me, character development gets a 50-50. 5 is visuals and CGI. I am happy to say that the CGI and visuals actually looked really good in this movie, especially compared to Captain America at the beginning of this year. It was night and day, and there were some actually cool visual moments in the action scenes that made me want to see more. Not just in this area, but in others, it seemed like they were trying to recycle what they have found works in the past and use it again and try to get people interested again, which I'm kind of on the fence about, but it was effective in this movie. And there were some pretty cool visual concepts and visual transitions that happened that I think were handled really well. So for me, visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. Thunderbolts clocks in at 2 hours and 6 minutes long, and in my opinion, the only reason why you feel the length of this movie is because of the first half having to do with Valentina. You very easily could have shrunk that down to a quarter or less of the movie and focused on what was in the final act of the movie and developed that for the whole film. If they would have done that and made the writing for the banter actually intelligent and funny at the beginning of the movie, I would easily want to watch this movie again. So where does that leave me with wanting to watch a movie again? I don't know, but I don't like the idea of wasting an hour of my life wanting to see the next hour be good. So for me, rewatchability gets a 50-50. With all these areas considered, I have to give Thunderbolts a 5.5 out of 10. This movie had a really awesome second act. It had a lot of heart near the end of the film, and it brought back some of the most interesting anti-heroes that we haven't seen for a long time. But it didn't bother developing those characters, it kind of just brought them back to where they were before. A lot of the bantering wasn't very intelligent or funny. In fact, it made some of the characters insufferable for half the film, and this movie wasted so much of its runtime on a boring part of the film and only gave about 20 to 30 minutes of the meat and potatoes that everyone wanted to see. I'm really hoping that Disney and Marvel can look at what worked for this movie and take it and get back to the magic that was pre-Endgame. But I think as a fan base, we are at the middle of a crossroads, hoping that Marvel chooses the right direction. Because there was a hint of that magic in this movie, but we're still waiting to see which way they'll go. There are 2 post-credit sequences for this movie, and I will say the second one actually had some substance to it, so it's worth sticking around for. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Thunderbolts, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.